I guess I could talk a bit about the other changes we found out about recently. I was thinking about possibly making a video covering the recently discussed changes that have been made since this was Versus 13, now that it's Final Fantasy 15, because they changed some stuff. The one of the things they discussed last time was basically Tabata said, we've mostly been discussing, you know, the technology, the game design, because we wanted to prove that we were making, you know, a tangible product. But, you know, in the future we'll be talking more about the story, which obviously, you know, the whole Gamescom, they're moving forward with the press at Gamescom. You know, a new marketing campaign is launching at Gamescom. I feel like I must have mentioned this last time, but in case you don't know, there's not going to be a trailer at E3, so don't hold your breath for that. Wow, I'm in bad shape right now, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah. So during the live stream, he was like, we're going to be showing off more of it soon, talking about the story more. But before we do that, need to get some things out of the way, and he basically went into the things that we knew about from Versus, which granted wasn't a whole lot, but the few things we knew about from Versus that have changed. Stella is now Luna. Stella no longer exists. I guess I'll get into more of that in a second, because there might be a cutscene here. Remains to be seen, of course. Also, the party will not be in town during the attack on the capital city of Insomnia. They're going to be out of town for some new reason. Some newly established reason that was not in Versus originally. They're going to have some new reason to be out of town. But apparently it's plot critical. They couldn't say why. It's a spoiler, that type of thing. Alright, let's see if it does something. Nothing! How am I supposed to trigger these? Do I have to go and kill the big thing? Because there's no way I can kill the big thing. I guess I could, like, I wonder if, because it says things that are killed by Rama don't grant experience. I wonder if that also includes things that are damaged but not killed by Rama. Because one summoning of Rama does not kill the big guy. So I wonder if I could use the summon on him like once or twice, but not actually kill him. Well, whatever. I didn't get the scene to play, so I'm I've got no other options now other than we could go fight Deadeye in the overworld, because I never did that on camera before, but that fight, and I imagine the giant dinosaur thing, both fights probably take like an hour. What could be trouble? Thanks, Prompto. Appreciate it. Yeah, but to return to the other stuff I was talking about a second ago, yeah. So, the crew will no longer be in town when Insomnia is attacked and taken over. Where am I headed? The crew will no longer be in town. Oh, there we go. We got some arrow combo in there. No longer be in town when Insomnia is attacked and taken over. The party scene no longer exists. When I say the party scene, basically, if I need to explain that, then you won't care, and if I don't need to explain that, then you already know what it is. If you don't know what the party scene is, you probably won't care too much. It was basically attached to one of the earlier teaser trailers for Versus. There was a cinematic trailer, flashy cinematic trailer, followed by just a cutscene of Noctis and Stella talking at a party in Insomnia, presumably celebrating the peace treaty signing. It didn't have any voice acting because neither of the actors had been cast at the time, but it had Japanese subtitles, so fans have translated it and dubbed over it out the wazoo. Ooh, one of these things. Let's kill it. I'll use Armbingimer on it and kill it fast. Come back. I forgot, I can't... Number one, I have to engage it first before I can use Armbingimer, and then once I get it engaged, I have to lock onto it again after I activate Armbingimer anyway, so... No, oh, hold on. More important. What is this? Nice. Okay. Now where'd he go? He ran away. Surprise, surprise. There he is. Okay, yeah. So the party scene has been cut. The party no longer happens. And Stella's been replaced with Luna. They talked about basically they talked like as we were restructuring the story of 15 to be told in one cohesive piece, like tell the entire story in one game. we were exploring how to, like, we were trying to keep it as close to the original concept as possible, but we were exploring how we could, maintain the, story while telling it, like, in one thing. We had to change some things, was essentially what they were saying. And, one thing they were saying was they had to reconsider Stella's role in the story, and they said we could either change, Stella, or we could just create a new character. And they decided to create a new character. That's a very, like, I don't know, like a kind of a Japanese thing, kind of, I think, or not just Japanese, but like storytelling thing, where it's like, we could change this character completely to make, or not completely, but we could change certain elements of them to make it, you know, work for whatever we're doing, or we could just make them a new character, and, like, because that would be, I guess you would say, more respectful to the original character. Instead of changing them, just make a new one. A lot of people are like, why would they bother to delete Stella and make a new character? They're just trying to ruin the game. Or they're just trying to change it. I don't know. I honestly think it's a matter of, even if they only had to change a few minor things about her role, they'd still want to, like, rename her because they feel like it's no longer the same character. But anyway, they might have changed her massively. We don't know. Like, I mean, there were a lot of people, like, really upset that Luna's the new Stella because they're like, she's not nearly as proactive and interesting as, you know, Stella is, but we never... Flavors, huh? Alright, very good. But anyway, there were a lot of people really upset, like, you know, oh, they're gonna ruin the character. She's not nearly as proactive as Stella was. We never saw nearly enough of Stella, obviously, to get, like, super upset about it. I don't think, I mean, I'm upset about it because I've been attached to that character and, you know, her design for a long time, but that's, you know, it's a new character now. And people whose complaints are like, oh, now Luna is clearly a damsel in distress and not gonna be a heroine like Stella was. We've only seen 2 shots of her, and it was of her sitting in a chair. And I know that people's response to that is, well, there you go. Like, they emphasize Stella being a badass, whereas Luna, they've only shown her sitting in a chair and looking worried. Whatever. Who cares? Give them more time. We also had a scene of Stella at a party wearing a dress and talking with Noctis and being somewhat girly. So, like, you could take the argument both ways. I'm sure we'll see her fighting stuff plenty in the full game, if not in upcoming trailers. Anyway. So I'm not really, like, too hung up on that. I'm upset about it, but I'm not too hung up on it. The much more interesting thing, I feel, is when they were talking about telling it all in one cohesive package. Which is interesting to approach. Because a lot of people, like, are obviously very, like, their instant reaction is, oh, okay, so Nomura was going to tell this across 20 sequels, like Kingdom Hearts. Good thing they took it away from him. Plus, like, you know, he was taking 10 years to develop it, you know. Basically, the general message being Nomura is an idiot or whatever, I don't know. That whole thing's weird to me. You know what? Screw it. We're fighting Deadeye. We're at least going to engage him, even if I can't kill him. We're at least going to fight him. So the whole thing of, like, people being upset about, like, Nomura being director of this game, like, you know, thank goodness they handed it off to Tabata, because it was never going to get finished otherwise, is, like, you know, what people would say about it a lot. No? Like, I mean, okay, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. Maybe Nomura, you know, was nuts and was, you know, trying to take too much creative control over this, and it was going to take another 10 years for him to realize his vision of whatever this was. I don't know. And we'll probably never know that for sure. But what we do know is that during the course of Versus 13's development, Nomura shipped, like, 4 games. Like, think about that. He released 4 games during the course of Versus 13's development. All Kingdom Hearts games. And he was on some of them, like, his whole team wasn't necessarily on them the entire time, but he was the director on all of them. And he did art for, like, an untold dozens of games. And apparently, I don't know this for sure, but I see this asserted all the time. Apparently, the Versus 13 team got pulled off to work on Final Fantasy 13 when it was, like, in a rush to, you know, get it ready in time for release in 2009. Don't know if that's true, but I see people say that all the freaking time. So I'm not saying that somehow, like, oh, they should never have taken it away from Nomura, because obviously we don't know the situation behind the scenes. But, like, people who are saying, oh my gosh, guys, this game never would have been released if Nomura wasn't taken off the project. He released 4 games during the course of the game's development. I think it was... And maybe that was him being stupid and saying, I can manage all these projects at the same time. And maybe it was the studio saying, we need more Kingdom Hearts games. I imagine it was the studio saying we need more Kingdom Hearts games. And that's not me trying to bash, like, I mean, it is me bashing Square Enix, but I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be like, oh yes, my Lord and the Lord and Savior Nomura, it couldn't possibly be his fault. I'm saying it because I feel like from a studio perspective, Square Enix is a very franchise-conscious studio. And Final Fantasy is a very successful franchise, and part of the reason why they've been able to, you know, spin off so much and make so many entries in this series is because since each entry they can make as many Final Fantasy entries as they want, and they can make them all standalone. They don't have to tell one continuous story. So I think there's a precedent at Square Enix for something is successful, then okay, let's franchise it, right? Hold on a second, I'm gonna try and Armigamur. I feel like there's a precedent at Square for if something is successful, let's franchise-ize it, right? At least some amount of precedent for that. But you can't really do that as much with Kingdom Hearts, because unlike Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts tells a single story. It's set in the same universe, same characters, same villains, and every single entry in the series only served to, like, further convolute and, you know, draw out the story unnecessarily, for the most part. Not saying those games were bad necessarily, but they did affect the narrative in some negative ways. Oh, hold on. Get him up, get him up. Get him up! Get him up! Great, I warped instead of... Great, now I'm down 2. Awesome. Get up, Noctis. But yeah, I think that's part of the general issue with the Kingdom Hearts as a franchise is that they've treated it like Final Fantasy in terms of we can make more games, and they really can't, because like they're making the barrier of entry for that series impossibly difficult to get past. Because there's just so much stuff that you have to know to get into that game, because there's been so many games, and I imagine that I'm willing to bet that, like, if this wasn't Studio Man, that, you know, Nomura is the type of guy where he's like, if I'm making a Kingdom Hearts game, it's going to advance the story somehow. I'm not gonna, like, you know, because I don't want to cheat. Either A, I don't want to cheat people out of the story, you know, or I don't want to cheat people by having a game that's unimportant to the overall narrative. B, maybe he just feels like, you know, I'm not gonna bother making a game if it doesn't have some story progression in it. Or maybe C, it's a simple matter of, you know, if it doesn't have story progression in it, if we can't say this is super important to the story, then fans won't buy it, you know. Many different factors that go into it. But I imagine that, like, that's part of what's going on with Kingdom Hearts, is that they're pushing it like it's a Final Fantasy-esque franchise, and that's dumb, because it's not. It's telling a relatively singular story, and they're driving it into the ground. But anyway, that brings me back around to my point of saying, but the very first Kingdom Hearts game was relatively self-contained. It told a relatively singular story. Get Noctis. There we go. It told a relatively singular story, where it had a beginning and a middle and an end and stuff. And people who are familiar with Kingdom Hearts will argue, no spoilers, but technically the ending is somewhat open-ended. It leaves them with something to go and do. But without getting into what it is, I honestly feel like the ending of that game more brings it full circle than leaves it open to continuation. Because they've beaten the villains. The main objective of the story, in terms of not like the characters, I guess. Spoilers. Whatever. The majority of the main objective of the plot has been achieved, and the villains are dead, and it's, you know, all is right with the world. If Kingdom Hearts 1 had ended where it was, it would have technically left some dangling loose ends, but I think that most people who are, like, you know, fans of the franchise would have been able to go, you know, loose ends were left behind, but obviously X and Y would have happened, and eventually, you know, Z would have happened, and, you know, story would have ended. I feel like if we hadn't gotten a sequel to Kingdom Hearts, like, the conclusion of the narrative was fairly clear-cut. However, once you get to Kingdom Hearts 2, where they kind of knew, like, they were starting to figure out what the broader narrative was, like, of Xehanort and all this other stuff. Especially, Final Mix for 2 is really bad about this. That game is chock full of scenes that are just constantly cutting away to characters we don't know, having conversations about things we don't understand. That happens all the time in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. And like you can argue, okay, this is like, you know, it's teasing and set up for future games, but honestly, while some of those conversations have started to make more sense after Birth by Sleep and some other future entries in the series, half of those, like, you know, cutaway secret teasing scenes of Final Mix still don't make any sense. Like 10 years later, practically. Well, not 10. Almost 10 years, because that game came out in 2006. Almost 10 years later, we still don't know, like, what half of those scenes were about in Kingdom Hearts 2. But anyway, I think that's where, like, them talking about telling a concise story in verses might have come from, because I imagine that Nomura and his writer, I want to say the name is pronounced Ojima. Ojima's the guy who does most of the writing for the Kingdom Hearts series and was doing the writing for this game as well. He's not anymore. The story is still based on his initial draft. Did you see that? Ignis just, like, tossed his knife up in the air and then kicked it into him. That was awesome. I hadn't seen that before. Oh, no. Okay. I hit block, and if I'd been on the ground, it would have worked, but I was in the air, so it did not work. I was still in the air. Anyway. But yeah. I feel like they wouldn't have, and I mean, I don't know, obviously. Maybe Versus 13, because it was a spin-off, was going to end on a cliffhanger, and they wanted to establish franchise. I have no clue. In case you're wondering, I'm not wasting potions. That's what's going on. But yeah. So maybe it was going to end on a cliffhanger, but I imagine it was probably more likely that they were going to tease out the wazoo with, like, all kinds of plot setup for later games, right? I imagine that's the main issue they were talking about when approaching, like, telling a single story, because a lot of people complain about, like, Final Fantasy games getting sequelized and sequels and, you know, all kinds of continuations and stuff. But even 13, which people whine all the time about 13 getting its own franchise, 13-13-2, the original 13 told a concise story. A crappy story, but it was a concise, completed story. 13-2 and Lightning Returns were add-ons, and if you only played 13, you got the complete story. The narrative of 13 was self-contained and completed, so I imagine that whether or not 15 does get sequels, they wanted to ensure that the first game was a standalone thing and did not need sequels to clarify anything that happened in it. And I imagine that might be part of what happened with Stella, was they might have been planning on expanding her character further in a sequel or doing something with her, like, into a sequel or something like that. I remember a lot of people talking about, back in the day, what if the sequel to Versus 13 is, Stella is the protagonist, and, it's her and an all-girl party, which would be interesting. Or would have been, since Stella doesn't exist anymore. But Luna and full girl party, perhaps. Who knows? You never know. But anyway. So yeah, that's probably what they were talking about, like, telling a concise story in the original. Who knows? Maybe the story was a convoluted mess, and, you know, they don't want us to know, and they're just pretending to keep it, you know, together, but who knows? I imagine the story's gonna come out pretty well on this one, because, like, they've got so much riding on this game, they really cannot afford to, like, you know, be sitting here going, the story was alright, we'll just leave it. Like, I imagine they're going over the story of this game very procedurally and making sure that everything is, like, up to... No, not warp! Rescue! Goodness gracious. Ah! Go! 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 Noctis! Run! I'm telling you to sprint. Where is Ignis? I don't want to let go of my lock-on, because it takes too long to get it back. Here we go. Actually, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I have to let go of my... Oh, they fixed it. It comes back now. Nice, okay. Good. But I still can't... I still have to reestablish my lock-on for this. Get over to the weak leg! Man! If only I could just stay locked on when activating the Armigamurger thing. Goodness gracious. Yeah, as you guys can see, this fight takes a long-ass time. I beat him legitimately several levels below where I am now, so it's not like... It's not impossible. I mean, you guys are watching this, you can see, like, you know, the math, I can do it. It's mathematically possible, but... Mathematically probable, I would argue, but, like, you know, you're watching this, it's just not, I'm not... get up, Noctis! Go, go, go! You're watching this, you can see this, like, I mean, it's just... It's gonna take 3 hours. I don't want to waste my time and your time doing this. This does not count as cover. Okay. Find cover, Noctis. Get away from this. Yeah, exactly. He's a problem. Here, you guys fight him for a minute. Deadeye, leave me alone. I wonder if you can do chain attacks on this guy, because they haven't initiated, like, a chain attacking thing yet, so I wonder if that's even possible with this guy. We knocked him over once, but I was in stasis then, so maybe just the prompt didn't appear? I don't know. Screw it. You know what? I'm not going to finish fighting him, but I am going to Armigamur onto his face, because I can. And why did I bother getting the lock on when I knew I was going to have to do this in a second anyway? There, yeah, of course, now that I'm doing this, he does the parryable thing again, and I'm down. Yeah, screw this. I'm not wasting time doing this again. You all saw, I can do it. The math is on my side. I'm just not wasting the time on it. Because that would be stupid. Oh, well. That's probably the end of an episode. I filmed, man, considering how long I have to add to, whatever. I don't even remember, like, where my train of thought was on Versus 13 versus Final Fantasy 15, so, I think what I was gonna say was, I bet Stella had to be changed, because other than, like, the things that they were changing about the story, I bet that she had some larger role in the sequel or something like that, or some, like, larger teasing mysterious role that they rearranged to make it, like, more cohesive within a singular title. That's my bet on why she got changed into Luna. We'll find out, obviously, or maybe we'll never find out. Maybe we'll never find out what the original structure of Versus 13 was. Oh, well. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. A lot of people are like, game is ruined now because this is no longer the original vision of the director. I don't know. Like, I mean, the original vision could have been bad. This could be bad. We never knew enough to make a judgment call about it either way. Game could still be terrible. I maintain that. Like, anybody who's, like, wondering, because I'm doing so much coverage of this, I maintain this game could be terrible, and none of you should pre-order it. Like, pre-ordering a game like this far out is stupid. Even though the gameplay here is pretty solid, once again, I'll repeat that if the gameplay is, like, if there's still a lot of these problems in the final version, I'm going to be really upset. I maintain, do not pre-order. It could still be bad. Don't believe the hype. Never believe the hype on anything, though. I've been burned too many times, and I'm sure you have been too, to get, behind stuff like this. Always maintain neutral expectations. That way, if it's good, you can enjoy it, and if it's bad, you're not crushed. But anyway, I guess that's the end of this episode. This might be episode 3. I have no clue. It depends on how I cut these. But yeah, end of episode 3. If you guys want to see, like, just a whole episode of me fighting Deadeye, which would be a long, boring episode, tell me. I could do it, I guess. I'm filming these, like, right as I'm releasing them, obviously. Unlike with the last time I filmed this, where I filmed most of it in one sitting and then released it over the course of a week and then filmed the final one later. I'm filming this one basically as I upload them. Like, I'm filming this at 11 o'clock on the day that the second episode is going to go up. So some of this might even be going up today. Most of what I filmed today is going up today. This last little, like, 20 minutes or so probably isn't going to go up today, though. But anyway. So yeah, if you guys want to see me do a full fight against Deadeye, tell me, I guess. I might go grind some, and so I'm doing some more damage. Also, I obviously didn't go into this with any cooking buffs. I need to go buy good ingredients and go, like, eat a good meal before I fight him, obviously. Same with the big dinosaur thing. I'm obviously going to fight the dinosaur thing. Whether I kill it or not is another question, but I'm going to fight it, obviously. Are there any more subquests? Please let me know, because if there are more subquests, I want to be able to do them. But, I mean, other than that, like, yeah. Alright. See you next time. Let me know what you want me to do.